Hi there, this is Dawn McVey, and welcome to another edition of Make It Monday for Paper Tray Ink. Today I'm excited to share a fun little twist with you on generational stamping using line images as well as a variety of colors. So let's get right to it. Okay, so we're going to talk about generation stamping today, but with a bit of a twist. Typically when I've seen generation stamping in the past, it's been with solid images and you stamp that image 3 or 4 times without re-inking each time, and the result is a little bit of a lighter image each time you stamp it. The difference that we're going to do today is we're going to use line images to stamp with, and we're also going to use multiple colors. So here's an example of one that I made just to show you kind of what we're going to be looking at today. I used the Delightful Dahlia stamp set here. And you can see on this set, this large flower here is a really thin lined image. So if you stamp that by itself in a color, say raspberry fizz or something, it's not going to pop out from the card very much. It's going to be pretty thin and not very, it's not going to have a lot of impact unless you color it in or something like that. But with generation stamping, and in multiple colors, what we are able to create is a really layered, detailed, almost watercolor effect. What I did here was used berry sorbet ink, pure poppy ink, and raspberry fizz ink. Each time I inked the stamp, I stamped it 3 or 4 times. Then I inked it again with that same color, stamped it another 3 or 4 times, and then moved on to the second color and then the third color. So the end result is that this stamp itself would have been stamped maybe 18 times, 3 times each before you re-ink. And I did that twice with each color times 3 colors. So 18, 20, 22 times. Each one of these would have been stamped. And so the result is a very layered, detailed image. I did the same thing with the leaves. I stamped those in 3 colors, Simply Chartreuse, Ripe Avocado, and New Leaf ink. And each time before I re-inked, I stamped it maybe 3 times and then re-inked it again with that same color before I moved on to the next color. So as you can see, the result is kind of a really cool, almost a spirograph effect with this particular flower. So that is what we're going to look at today. To get started, I'm going to use the same Delightful Dahlia stamp set. And I'm going to show you on this card that I'm going to make for you today how fun it is to mix and match different colors when you're layering them one on top of the other. And I think you're going to be surprised at how many different looks you can get with those colors, because Hawaiian Shores, for instance, doesn't look exactly like Hawaiian Shores once you start layering other colors on top of it. So you can really have fun with color on this one, and that, of course, is something that I love. So you're simply going to stamp it once, and then on this particular image, there's a little bit of a notch at the bottom of this flower. I'm going to use that as my guide so that I always kind of keep that notch in the same general location. In order to keep this looking like a flower and not like a big blob, you do want to keep, when you stamp and then you stamp again and you stamp again and you stamp again, you want to keep those all kind of facing the same direction so that the end result still leaves some white space in between the petals so that you can see that they're actually petals. I'm going to stamp this flower a second time on this same cardstock. Do the exact same thing. Stamp it once, and then stamp it several other times before you re-ink. And see how already we're getting this really great kind of blurry, shadowy effect. Now, at first it looks a little crazy, and you may think this is not going to work, but just keep piling on those layers and you'll be surprised at how pretty the end result is. So now I'm going to move on to some New Leaf ink over the top of Hawaiian Shores. Isn't that cool how that's starting to change? And all of a sudden, the Hawaiian Shores has a whole lot of green mixed in there, and it changes the look completely. You can still see plenty of Hawaiian Shores. I don't know if it's showing up very well in the video, but it's still definitely got that turquoise element to the flower. But we're adding a lot of dimension by adding some green. And the more you do this, you'll notice too that no two flowers come out exactly alike. Each one ends up a little bit different, which is kind of the beauty of it. So now we'll move on to one of the smaller flowers from the set. And I will say that on that first card I showed you, I layered 3 colors, the Raspberry Fizz, Pure Poppy, and Berry Sorbet. On this card, I'm only going to layer 2 colors with each image, but they're going to be very, very distinct and very different. That makes it very fun, I think. So now we're going to move on to some Summer Sunrise. Same thing, just stamp it once and then go ahead and keep stamping several more times. Moving it, you want to shift it very slightly each time you stamp it. Let's go ahead and do one more of those. And next I'm going to layer some Raspberry Fizz over the top. You see how that really changed the look of the Summer Sunrise. And yet it doesn't look like Raspberry Fizz either. You get a really pretty, sort of a new color out of the deal. And now one more color combo on a flower. This time we're going to do some Melon Berry with Pure Poppy. Now we'll move on to the Pure Poppy. Okay, now we want to add some leaves. I'm going to use the smaller of the 2 leaves from the same Delightful Dahlia stamp set. We'll start out with some Simply Chartreuse ink, doing the exact same thing. Oops. Just going to do this in several places where I want there to be leaves. The nice thing too is if really precise stamping is not your thing, that's great because you don't have to be super precise with this. And now lastly, I just want to add over the top of those leaves some ripe avocado. And there's our finished floral images. Now we're just going to add a sentiment. I've got a sentiment here from the Tagged Sentiment stamp set. I'm going to use this Thinking of You Just Because. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp it in some Hawaiian Shores ink. Just tuck it right up at the top in the space we've created. And now I'm going to add this, because there's so much color on the front, and I really want the color to be able to pop and not have another color distract from that or take away from that in any way. I'm going to layer it on a craft card base. And I'm just going to use a little bit of foam adhesive to pop that up off the front of the card. And there you have it. A really pretty, almost a watercolored effect with generational stamping using line images and multiple colors. I hope you've enjoyed today's project, and I hope that you decide to play along with this week's challenge. Don't forget there's a $25 gift certificate to Paper Tray up for grabs, so if you'd like to play along with this week's challenge, be sure to head over to Nicole Hetty's blog where you can leave a link to your project so we can all see what you came up with. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Dawn McVey with Make It Monday.